I say we play the hand that's been dealt to all of us. And maybe you get to keep the rest of your damn fingers.
For people who like Nobody, for people who like John Wick, for people who like action with some genre and with some atmosphere, I think that this is the best fucking movie that you will see in a generation.
Normal is the funnest, funniest, most surprising piece of work that delivers on your hopes for how it can be entertaining and fun. And you see it, you feel it on set. There's not a lot of places audiences can go to press play and just be entertained. This is gonna be one of those films.
Why are you here?
I used to be a regular sheriff. I walked through life with my head held high.
I kind of stopped trusting my instincts.
Death comes for us all, don't it, lawman?
You've been listening to my internal monologue, haven't you?
I got involved in Normal by, all these things always start with an email, usually from an agent, from my agent anyway, Phil Damacour, and he said, this is a script you must do. And the fact that it had Bob Odenkirk attached to it and was coming from Bob was something that pushed it to the top of my list. I was very excited about reading it and finding out what it was about, but also the prospect of working with Bob.
This is a hell of an armory.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's my one trick.
I'm a big fan of Westerns, and when I was on the bus on the first Nobody, I came up with this idea, and I pitched it to Marc, and he loved it. And 6 months later, Bob asked me about it, and I pitched it to him. And to be honest, we didn't have the bandwidth or time. And then when the WGA went on strike, Bob called me and said, I guess we got the time. And that's where it came from.
We just thought, oh my God, like the way our movie Normal is built, where we have these different set pieces of the hardware store and the knitting store, and we want each fight to have its own feel and look and be intimate. And we thought if Ben could do what he did over the course of an entire movie in one warehouse in Free Fire, that would be a dream. He was clearly the fantasy director for us to attract to the film. He read the material, he loved it, he signed on.
We talked about doing something that was a love letter to the Coen brothers, to comedies and thrillers and gangster movies of the 30s and 40s, but something that was self-propelled, that it's one movie at first and then it becomes something altogether different, and yet with a hero, not an anti-hero, someone that just rides into town like they tend to do, does their thing, and at the end of the movie you realize they could ride off to the sunset, do the same thing in the next town over.
Well, if I'm reading this badge correctly, I'm the sheriff.
Yeah, I sure as shit didn't vote for you.
I understand.
The overall vision for the film was to make an action movie that was fun, but had a heart, wasn't too cynical, and had its one foot in the classical Western form and its other foot in modern action cinema. There's a lot to learn from the actual Western genre in itself, because it has, you know, there's a binary thing of black and white, of good and bad characters, of heroes and villains, but the modern setting and setting it in a modern world with modern kind of pressures and worries brings all that stuff into something that the audience could understand, I hope.
Calm cleans messy.
It was something that I'd wanted to do for a long time, which is basically a neo Western. It had those elements. It felt like a kind of inverted High Noon, where instead of the sheriff having to fight the bad guys coming into town because the townsfolk wouldn't support him, he was basically having to fight the townsfolk themselves. And that immediately appealed to me.
It's not about an anti-hero, it's about a hero realizing, I'll be the hero.
It distinguishes itself because it's commenting on an era that evokes such joy and happiness in most people, which is 50s Americana. It awakens one's feelings about that utopic era in America, where the small town was thriving and things seemed more simple. Of course, there were also tremendous issues in the country at that time. But what was being messaged to us and shown and through film and media was simplicity and joy and optimism. And this film seems to resurrect that even in the setting of a small town, a small American town, still holding on to the American dream, and yet it has a couple secrets.
What do you think of our little town? It's charming.
Yeah. The most important thing for an actor, for a film, for a project, for anything, is a director who knows what he wants. And that is Ben.
He's kind of a British legend. He's kind of everything I'd hoped he would be. Does that thing that I think very confident directors do, which is allow people to do what they do without controlling every kind of minor movement or thought of an actor. So it feels very relaxed and very easy.
Ben Wheatley is the best blank effing director I could have ever dreamed of for this movie. He loves action, and it's got plenty of action, but he loves mystery, and he loves character, and he loves humor, and he's funny. He's a funny, funny man.
He's always of really great humor. Ben's never in a bad mood. He's always happy. We know when we've got it because he'll giggle at the monitors. And therefore, everybody around him is happy and pleasant all the time, too.
I just can't. We got so lucky, and you are so lucky, and I'm so lucky to get to watch a movie directed by Ben Wheatley.
You don't play this right, we're gonna have a massacre in there.
Working with Bob is really exciting. You know, there's a lot of challenge to the script all the time and to the meaning of everything. And, you know, as a producer and a writer and a performer, he can make decisions quickly and change things quickly that might make the production less agile if you were having to kind of get approval all down the line. So that multi-role thing works really well. I think it's much faster, and whenever he gets up on screen, everything is going to be solid. Well, Bob brings to the character of Ulysses a kind of solid emotional understanding. When you look in his eyes in the rushes, there's so much meaning in there above and beyond what the dialogue is.
I got dark inside, and I didn't know who I was anymore, and I still don't.
You believe him, you believe the pain that he's going through, or the doubt that he has, or the moral questions of what he's doing. You know, that's just a big weight that Bob brings to the performance.
What makes Bob such a strong actor is when we work through the script and we get closer and closer to the scene, we take out lines of dialogue instead of adding them. I would rather he say something with a look, a wink, or a nod, or a smirk than anything else. What he brings to this too is this gravitas, this notion of redemption, of a character who has never really asked for salvation, but now it is forced upon him, and he accepts it. And I think Bob's the perfect candidate to embolden the role. His excitement and his energy, his optimism and his encouragement, it's not often like this on a movie set. And Bob's a rare one.
Bob is funny. Bob is all of a sudden has emerged as a great action hero. He is also, like the director, he is inclusive. He's right there. He is a very generous acting partner.
Working with Bob is great. You know, I've always admired his work, so it's really fun to be, you know, doing scenes one-on-one with him. He's a great actor, and there's room to play, and we can change up the lines and find different ways to do it.
I have not had as much fun making film or TV in years.
Tom, I'm on the fairway, right? I've got the wind to my back. And then all of a sudden I address the ball. Hello there. I love your dimples. And then, thank you. And then I smash that ball. I'm telling you, it takes off. It is flying. I've crushed it.
You kidding me? Are you kidding me? We have Henry Winkler as the mayor.
Could there be anyone better than Henry Winkler to be that guy? There is no one better. On top of which, Henry is the nicest guy in Hollywood, famously, and that's true and real. And he's playing an evil guy. And that's always fun. It's always fun when a person with a genuinely good spirit plays the dark side of humanity. It almost makes him more evil, and you can feel the fun of making that choice. And Henry just dug into that. and he's just the greatest to watch do this.
When I did the first phone call with him when we were talking about the role, I was thinking, God, I'm talking to the Fonz. And so he's like a living icon, but at the same time, he's really super sweet guy, you know, and he's kind of, you know, vulnerable and worried about his performance, but then his performance is great. So it's a great mixture of stuff. And then he'd be there on set. He just sits on set as well and talks to people and is really open. Yeah, it was a real joy to meet him.
I'm Moira, the barkeeper here.
Lena, she's the greatest actress, and she's got so much texture in her presence. You know, she just grabs you. She's sexy, and she's smart, and she's tough, and she's ironic. And in this story, she plays Moira. And when Ulysses meets Moira, he immediately knows, here's a person who's wise and ironic. Here's a person who's aware of the duplicity of people and the multifaceted nature of humanity, who walks through life with that ironic distance that Ulysses has. So they recognize a kindred spirit, a kindred point of view in each other. But Lena, I mean, you can't get a better actress to play all of those qualities than Lena.
It's a hard job because she's only got like 2 days with us, I think. But she just parachuted in and was straight on the performance. And yeah, again, it was just, it makes my job a lot easier, you know, and I get to take credit for their great performances. But these people are so kind of skilled and honed that they just can come in and it's just great out of the box. So it's not, you could find yourself in a situation maybe where you had to find the performance on set, but I never felt that with either Lena or Henry. It was just straight. As soon as they started doing it, their take was really good.
One of the major characters in this story is the storm or the blizzard. And it has to start out small, get bigger, and then end. When we're working outside, we've had to figure out how to make a storm that isn't just in front of one lens of a camera. We've had to make a storm that covers half a block. So we have quite a team. Our snow team alone is 17 people to use fans, foam, fake snow. They bought fish ice. We bought ice scraped off of ice rinks, hockey rinks, and that sort of thing. They used every kind of material they could think of. And it looks great.
You could build a whole new life here in Normal. We really celebrate the community.
You make a good film, you build it, they will come. That's what Bob and Ben do.
It is a old-style movie. It's like the kind of qualities that you love, those qualities of being invited into a world that has humor and danger and suspense and surprise, and then comes through and delivers for you as a viewer on all those qualities, surprises you along the way. It has all of those qualities, and I think we're discovering them as we make it, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
I think always when you storyboard stuff, the step when you take it onto the floor and shoot it, there's always an improvement. The storyboards are more of like a waypoint of what the action could be doing. So the bits between the drawings are the exciting bits. So I like to keep my boards reasonably loose so you can interpret them and come up with stuff on the day and you're not tied to them, otherwise things become stiff. But you also don't want to have to be thinking everything up on the day because it's a high pressure environment and you could miss something. But if you've done the storyboard version of it, at least you've thought your way all the way through it once, at least once. And then you can read the storyboards alongside the script and imagine it in the same way that you read a comic and see the images. When you read a comic, you're not just looking at pictures, the images come alive in your imagination and join up into action. And that's what happens with storyboards. Derek is very collaborative, only wants what's best for the movie and for the script, and so he's flexible in terms of the adjustments that happen on set. But people are only ever changing it to making it better, and he's totally down with that. And I've really enjoyed working with Derek. Again, he's really like a ray of sunshine when he turns up on set, and always conversations with him are always really encouraging and creative. I think the thing I've enjoyed most, obviously, is meeting a lot of new people, both actors and crew. That's been awesome. Shooting in Canada has been fantastic. I've never done that before for a movie, and I've really enjoyed that. Shooting in new environments has been great too. You know, I've done a lot of things that have been in closed-in spaces, and it's great to get out and about onto the plains and onto a wider canvas. But I think mostly it's like getting to shoot a lot of action, but a movie that's kind of has a lot of heart, but is also has comedy beats in it. I really, that's my favourite thing to do.
There's a mystery in this town. My character Ulysses has been sent here to be the sheriff until they elect a new sheriff. He knows something is off, something's not right, but he doesn't know what it is, and he's got to kind of work against his own instincts, which tell him to just back off and don't ask questions and let it go, because I'm leaving anyways in just a short while. But in the course of just 2 days, my character discovers what's happened by accident and unravels a couple different mysteries that all revolve around one big mystery in this town, and everything goes kaboom. Ulysses is a listener, and he's kind of a shut-down guy, and I think he's kind of a typical, 50-plus-year-old man who's had a few things go wrong in his life. And he's learned that he's got to restrain himself from judgment and action. And in this case, he almost waits too long to take action. Like, his instincts are that something is wrong, but he almost doesn't want to look at it. He's gonna have to confront what's rotten at the heart of the core of this town, and at the core of what maybe killed the previous sheriff.
The movie is about a substitute sheriff named Ulysses, who, when a sheriff in a town is killed or gets sick or promptly retires, the State Department or Homeland Security sends him in to kind of hold down the fort until the citizenry vote in a new sheriff. And in this case, he comes to the small town of Normal, where Sheriff Gunderson has died, and just begins to notice that there's a bit of Stepford Wives going on. Things are a little bit too shiny, and it isn't until the bank is robbed by a young couple desperate to make ends meet that he realizes that the town is actually a bank for the Yakuza. Ulysses is at first incredibly irritated with the deputies in Normal. Blaine tends to keep him at arm's length. Deputy Mike just won't shut the hell up. And he grates on Ulysses, who wants nothing to do with him. And yet over time, he can't help but feel a kind of a big brother connection to Mike. These are short-term relationships that, just as they begin to warm, the deputies show their true colors alongside the town, and suddenly the gun by his side is the gun in his back. I was surprised at how excited Henry was to play this role. It's not a big role, but the character's role, his shadow is over the entire town for the entire movie. I like the mayor because he really does believe what he's doing is right, and he loves his town. Now, granted, he'll use the word our, but really he means my. And so I like those characters that on the surface come across as your favorite uncle, but just underneath the surface is the devil. And when he signed on, we were all kind of chuckling, going, this is gonna be cool. But then when we started doing the read-through and when we worked on the script, and when we got to the set, we realized this isn't just cool, it's right. This is the perfect character for the role. And he made it his own. He brings in a resume that is just astounding, and I'm proud to have Normal on it. There is a dangerousness to Lena. There is a femme fatale just to the characters that she has done in the past and where she'll go in the future. But she has that look naturally, where on the one hand she's smirking, and the other hand she's looking ready to stab you. I love the idea of bringing in a character who could easily become a love interest, but at the same time could become the one who ends Ulysses before the end of the movie. There's a classic Hollywood Lena that I haven't seen in quite some time. And of course, from the work she's done on Game of Thrones, and I loved her in Judge Dredd, I can't wait to see what she brings to this one. Normal is a must-see for audiences because just when you think you know what kind of movie it is, it becomes something altogether different. But more importantly, when you watch it again, you begin to pick up on the things that we've laid throughout, that you get to chuckle because you know it's coming next. And on top of that, it's both intimate and yet expansive in how we're telling a story. And more importantly, it's not about an anti-hero, it's about a hero realizing, I'll be the hero.
The mayor is he is the glue that holds this kind of warped town together. The town is really a cover for a Japanese gang. The mayor, it seems to be just a lovely, warm, wonderful fellow who has this deep secret of how the town is being held together. And you know, he says all of the main streets in America are disintegrating. I saw the writing on the wall, and I'm not going to let that happen to my town. He's a liar, and you can never show a liar lying. So I wanted him to be concealed. I wanted him to be behind a protective covering. Well, they meet really for the first time at the funeral of the sheriff who might have been dealt with, not sure, might have frozen, not sure. And Ulysses, Bob Odenkirk's character, comes to pay his respect. And I have a complicated, strange conversation with him about the plural of moose. He's sizing him up. My entire time in the scene is sizing this guy up and whether or not he's going to be a team player.
Bob and I have been working together for, I think it's accurate to say, 14 years. He's a writer first and foremost. He's won Emmys as a writer. And it was at a point in his life where he was pitching me ideas every week, every couple of weeks he was coming in with a new project. But the one thing I can take authenticity or take responsibility for was this was the idea that I was really clear that could turn into something special. He is the creative genius and is so dedicated to the work, and I understand the business side really well and had a vision for how to get this one made. As a result of that, I think Derek had the interest and the confidence and the intrigue to bring us that document, which was called The Intern, which, you know, turned into Normal. He is singularly the best in the world in his form. What he does with action, specifically, puts him in his own category. I mean, he is, if you think about it, he has birthed John Wick, which stands alone as one of the most profound, original franchise concepts in the action space of a generation, and we're in process of birthing a new franchise called Normal, because this film absolutely plays into a franchise model in success. When we were showing Ben Wheatley's material, it was very evident that he would make a fantastic version of this movie, and so we pursued him. And so our experience with Ben has been better than imagined. When you're working with a director whose standards is higher than mine could ever be, then it takes so much pressure off, and then we can focus on other things, knowing that Ben's standards are going to be higher. And it also leads to a very easy collaboration, because we have high ideals for this film, and he has a high ideal for anything that he's directing. And so when we speak, there's an immediate and intrinsic shorthand, because we're both striving for the very best.